welcome to the Ranger Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Our hosts for today's ceremony are the Airborne and Ranger Training Brigade Commander and Command Sergeant Major Colonel Antoine L. Dunmeyer and Command Sergeant Major Eric J. Bonapane, and the 75th Ranger Regiment Commander and Command Sergeant Major Colonel Todd S. Brown and Command Sergeant Major Kurt D. Donaldson. The Ranger Hall of Fame honors and preserves the legacy of America's most extraordinary Rangers. Selected from Ranger units of various eras, each Ranger nominee was subjected to the scrutiny of a selection board to ensure only the most extraordinary contributions to our nation or Ranger history were acknowledged. To be eligible for selection to the Hall of Fame, a person must be separated or retired from active military service. They must have served in a Ranger unit in combat or be a successful graduate of the U.S. Army Ranger School. Nominations were solicited from the Army Ranger Associations and members of the Ranger Hall of Fame. Particular care was taken to select this year's 16 extraordinary Rangers for induction into the Ranger Hall of Fame. Their endless list of significant contributions, selfless sacrifice, loyal service, and character stand as examples to all and are the fabric of the modern Ranger. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the arrival of the official party and remain standing for our national anthem and the invocation delivered by Chaplain Wallace Jackson.
Let us pray. Almighty God, we come before you this day. You are the God of all creation, of things seen and unseen. You are the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The God of the living and not the dead. We give you thanks. For without you, none of this is possible. You are on your throne and in control. So, Father, we thank you for the Ranger family. We thank you for our family and friends gathering here today. We thank you of all Rangers that have gone before us. We thank you for those that are up on this podium today being acknowledged. We pray that you continue to bless them as they transition, as they continue to move forward in the great Ranger tradition. And Father, may we never forget your great sacrifice, your goodness, the grit, the selfless love, and the relentless passion you have for us. It's through Christ I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please be seated. American Ranger history spans over 300 years. Captain Benjamin Church raised an independent ranger company to fight the Indians during the King Philip's War in 1675 and is credited as the father of the American Rangers. In 1756, Major Robert Rogers organized and trained 9 companies of American colonists who fought during the French and Indian War. 19 standing orders used by Rogers Rangers are still followed by today's Rangers. The Ranger tradition continued in the American Revolution with Morgan's riflemen and Marion's partisans. Both units used harassing attacks, ambushes, and expert marksmanship against British adversaries. These early Ranger tactics were continued by Mosby's Raiders, who caused havoc behind enemy lines during the Civil War. Ranger battalions were formed during World War II to conduct commando raids and spearhead long-range combat operations. Major William O. Darby organized and activated the 1st Ranger Battalion in 1942, and later led the 1st, 3rd, and 4th Ranger Battalions in the North African, Sicilian, and Italian campaigns. The 2nd and 5th Ranger Battalions participated in the D-Day landings at Omaha Beach, which then earned the Rangers' motto, Rangers Lead the Way. The 6th Ranger Battalion fought the Pacific Campaign and conducted the famed raid that liberated Allied prisoners of war in Cabanatuan. Would all World War II Ranger veterans please stand to be recognized? Today's Rangers also trace their lineage from the 530 7th Composite Unit Provisional and 4 75th Infantry. Commanded by Major General Frank D. Meryl, the Meryl's Marauders fought and defeated the Japanese in the China-Burma-India Theater during World War II. After the war, the 4 75th was pre-designated as the 75th Infantry. Would all Meryl's Marauders present please stand to be recognized? These Ranger units were deactivated at the end of World War II, but the need for Rangers quickly resurfaced during the Korean War. The Army formed 18 airborne Ranger companies, 17 of which trained in the United States, while 1 was in Japan. Committed to combat in the Korean Peninsula, these Ranger companies fought with distinction. Would all Rangers who fought in the Korean War please stand to be recognized? The Army deactivated the airborne Ranger companies in September 1951. The Army Chief of Staff, General J. Lawton Collins, directed that Ranger training be extended to all units in the Army, with an overall objective to raise the standard of training in all combat units. In October 1951, the Army established the Ranger Department, whose mission was to train small unit infantry soldiers to the Ranger standard. The first Ranger class for individual candidates graduated on 1 March 1952. Rangers were again called to serve their country during the Vietnam War as long-range reconnaissance patrol units. In 1969, the Army designated them as companies of the 75th Infantry Ranger. 14 Ranger companies served with valor and distinction in Vietnam. Would Rangers who fought in the Vietnam War please stand to be recognized? Following the outbreak of the 1973 Middle East War, the Department of the Army was concerned about the need for a light, mobile, and lethal force that could serve as a standard for infantry units across the Army. General Creighton Abrams, then Chief of Staff of the Army, ordered the formation of the modern-day Ranger Battalions with these words: "The Ranger Battalion is to be elite, light, and the most proficient infantry battalion in the world. A battalion that can do things with its hands and weapons better than anyone. Wherever the Ranger Battalion goes, it must be apparent that it is the best." Toward that end, the 1st Battalion Rangers, 75th Infantry, was activated at Fort Stewart, Georgia on 20 August 1974, and the 2nd Battalion Rangers, 75th Infantry, was activated at Fort Lewis, Washington on 1 October 1974. In 1984, the Department of the Army activated the 3rd Battalion Rangers, 75th Infantry, and Headquarters Company Rangers, 75th Infantry, received their colors on October 3rd, 1984, here at Fort Benning, Georgia. The activation of the battalions at its parent headquarters marked both as a continuation of the Ranger lineage for the future, as well as a link to the Rangers' prestigious past. On 3 February 1986, the Secretary of the Army, John O. Marsh Jr., redesignated the 75th Infantry to the 75th Ranger Regiment, thus establishing the Rangers as an enduring unit of the U.S. Army. On 1 November 1987, the Ranger Department reorganized into the Ranger Training Brigade and activated the 4th, 5th, and 6th Ranger Training Battalions. The Ranger Training Brigade later expanded with the activation of the 7th Ranger Training Battalion, but in 1995 returned to its original 3 battalions when the desert training phase was removed from the Ranger Corps. In October 2014, the 1st Battalion, 507th Parachute Infantry Regiment, joined the Ranger Training Brigade to form the Airborne and Ranger Training Brigade. Due to the changing nature of warfare and the need for an agile and sustainable Ranger force, the 75th Regimental Special Troops Battalion was activated on July 17, 2006. The Regimental Military Intelligence Battalion was activated June 2020 to recruit, train, develop, and employ highly trained and specialized Rangers to conduct full-spectrum intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, cyber, and electronic warfare operations. The task organization of each Ranger Battalion now includes a headquarters company, 4 rifle companies, and a support company. The men and women of the Airborne Ranger Training Brigade and the 75th Ranger Regiment continue a tradition of Ranger excellence begun over 200 years ago. Through rigorous combat-focused training, the Ranger Corps has provided Rangers to enhance the Army's ranks with tactically and technically proficient, supremely confident small unit leaders for over 50 years. The 75th Ranger Regiment provides the most potent and responsive strike force in the nation's arsenal. Always ready, able to fight anytime, anywhere, against any enemy and defeat him. Rangers, lead the way. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the commander of the Airborne and Ranger Training Brigade, Colonel Antoine Dunmeyer.
Good afternoon. What a great day to be a Ranger. And, you know, just sitting at the dinner last night, Meryl's Marauders, we had Colonel retired Ralph Puckett, Medal of Honor recipient, and just to see the gentleman stand through, 3 major conflicts. And, when you take all of that in, you truly don't understand. It's more than just history to me. It's freedom. That's what these men have fought for. Amen. And died for. And the representatives on this stage today are elite athletes who have played this game well and can continue to set the path for others to follow. And we truly thank you. And so on behalf of Command Sergeant Major Bonapane, the 75th Ranger Regiment Command Team, Todd Brown, Kirk Donaldson, and myself, we send a wholehearted thanks for all the distinguished guests, the families, fellow Rangers, friends, and everyone else that came out here today to help recognize the Ranger Hall of Fame class of 2021. Thank you. The 16 honorees on stage today will soon become part of an elite class of selfless, battle-tested, principled, and inspirational Ranger leaders who always kept themselves mentally alert, physically strong, morally straight, and have shouldered way more than their share of the task. Amongst this esteemed group is several distinguished service medals, a Silver Star, Bronze Stars with Valor, Purple Hearts, and multiple combat tours across various continents spanning every major conflict from World War II to the global war on terrorism. Absolutely amazing. Today's time-honored event is meant to highlight Ranger Legends' contributions to our great nation, our great Army, the Ranger Regiment, and those countless souls they have and continue to inspire today. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Ranger Hall of Fame class of 2021. Congratulations, and Rangers lead the way.
It gives us great pleasure to introduce these most extraordinary Rangers as they are inducted into the U.S. Army Ranger Hall of Fame. Each individual or their representative here today will be presented with a distinctive medallion. You can find your inductees' complete citation in the program as well as on the commemorative plaques, which will be displayed in the Ranger Hall of Fame. Our first inductee is Major General Jeffrey L. Bannister. Major General Bannister served as the 10th Mountain Division Commander and Senior Commander at Fort Drum, New York for 27 months. He is inducted into the Ranger Hall of Fame for his service and embodiment of the Ranger Creed throughout his military career. As an infantry officer, Major General Bannister served in various positions, from rifle platoon leader in the 82nd Airborne Division to commanding general of the 10th Mountain Division. He served in the 75th Ranger Regiment as a platoon leader, assistant S4, battalion S4, rifle company commander, liaison officer, battalion S3, and as the regimental deputy commander. His work was always characterized by a high degree of ingenuity, resolve, collaboration, unwavering commitment, and certain success. He was gifted in both the planning and execution of incredibly complex special operations missions or working in the crisis action mode. Major General Bannister is a graduate of the Infantry Officer Basic and Advanced Courses, Airborne and Ranger Schools, U.S. Army Command and General Staff College, the National War College. His military awards and decorations include Distinguished Service Medal, 1 Oak Leaf Cluster, Defense Superior Service Medal, 3 Oak Leaf Clusters, Legion of Merit, 1 Oak Leaf Cluster, Bronze Star Medal, 2 Oak Leaf Clusters, Defense Meritorious Service Medal, 1 Oak Leaf Cluster, Meritorious Service Medal with Silver Oak Leaf Cluster, Joint Service Commendation Medal, Army Commendation Medal with Silver Oak Leaf Cluster, Joint Service Achievement, 1 Oak Leaf Cluster, Army Achievement Medal, 2 Silver Oak Leaf Clusters, Combat Infantryman Badge, Parachute, Master Parachutist Badge, Ranger Tab, and Pathfinder Badge. For exceptionally meritorious service, Ranger Bannister's contributions to the nation are phenomenal and enduring. His exceptional leadership and service are in keeping with the highest traditions of the Ranger Creed and reflect great credit upon himself, the United States Army Rangers, and the United States Army. Ladies and gentlemen, to honor Major General Bannister, his medallion is being presented to his wife, Lieutenant Colonel retired Tracy Bannister.
Okay, let's see if we can do this. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to accept this honor on behalf of my husband, Major General Jeff Bannister. I am honored and humbled to be standing in his place today. I thought about what Jeff would say today and went back and looked at several speeches that he gave. As in every speech he gave, he would begin by thanking people. First, I would like to thank General Keane and Colonel Pentecost for taking the time to nominate Jeff. Jeff thought the world of both of you. I would also like to thank and recognize a few people that I know are here, and it is not my intention to leave anyone out. First, our family, Jeff's brother Ron, his wife Delois, their daughter Susan, and his granddaughters Gracie and Katie. My sister Carolyn and my brother-in-law John, who traveled with me and Lindsay from Boston. They have been beside me every step of the way these past 3 years, and without you, I don't know where I'd be. Craig Charles, Tom Haley, his wife Melissa, and son John. Jeff and Tom competed in the Best Ranger competition together for 2 years representing the 82nd Airborne. Tom always shows up for us. I know there are others, so thank you for taking the time to come and honor Jeff and the other inductees. Of course, the rest of our families wish they could be here too. They're very proud of all of Jeff's accomplishments. Next, he would praise others, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to talk about him. Those of you who knew him knew he was a humble leader and was the epitome of the Ranger professional. He was a quiet professional and gave more than 100% in absolutely everything he did, especially when it dealt with being a soldier and leading soldiers. A lot of times we describe leaders as a soldier, but that is the best way to describe Jeff. He started his career as an enlisted soldier and worked his way up through the ranks. He got to where he was through hard work and perseverance. He never took the easy way, and that is why he became an Army Ranger. As you all well know, it is one thing to go through Ranger School and earn the title of Ranger. That is very difficult. But it is another thing to volunteer and be selected to serve in the Ranger Regiment. That is for the elite. Serving in the Ranger Regiment with men, and now women, like the ones on this stage with me today, was an honor for Jeff. He was very proud of his time in the 1st Imperial Ranger Battalion, as well as his time up at Regiment and at JSOC representing the Ranger Regiment. He cherished his time there. While the Rangers were so important, equally important to him was taking what he learned in the Rangers and bringing it to the big Army. Big Army needs good leaders too. He always said that. He never shied away from a challenge and made an impact wherever he went. Like everyone on this stage, he had a very impressive resume. He served in every type of infantry unit, light, mechanized, airborne, ranger, and deployed them to combat. He even led the transformation of a mechanized brigade to a light brigade and deployed them to combat in less than a year to Iraq for the surge. He deployed numerous times, and while it took time away from our family, he knew it was important and he believed in the mission. Jeff was all about deeds and not words, and was never one to use the word I. It was always about the team. He finished his career as the commanding general of the 10th Mountain Division. Being from Georgia, the North Country was a little different climate, but like every assignment, it is the people you serve with that make it so special. Jeff loved his time at Fort Drum and felt it was an honor to finish his career there. In his final speech, he told Lindsay and me that he would be wounded without us. We are wounded without him. Although our wounds will never heal completely, we will continue to move forward and live our lives in a way that would make him proud. Thank you for this opportunity to honor and represent my husband, the best soldier and leader that I know. Rangers lead the way.
Our next inductee is Command Sergeant Major Ralph A. Borja. Command Sergeant Major retired Borja is inducted into the Ranger Hall of Fame for his service and embodiment of the Ranger Creed throughout his military career. Throughout his 31 years as a Ranger, boldly leading the way in assignments and mission as a leader in the 2nd and 3rd Ranger Battalions. Command Sergeant Major Borja established exemplary standards, shaping his legacy as a model for his peers. He sought every opportunity to further develop himself as a professional soldier, accepting all challenges in the mold of the ideal airborne Ranger. He carried these lessons he learned along the way to share with his subordinates as an inspiration to all with whom he served. The confident leader of flawless determination, resolve, and integrity, Command Sergeant Major Borja continually demonstrated the ideals of the Ranger Creed through every assignment and mission, to include combat jumps during Operation Urgent Fury and Operation Just Cause, and 2 deployments to Afghanistan. During Operation Just Cause, he was wounded and evacuated, earning a Purple Heart. He culminated his career as the Command Sergeant Major of the United States Army Space and Missile Defense Command. Command Sergeant Major Borja has continued to support the Ranger community as a spokesman for Rocky Boots and a major supporter of the Best Ranger competition. For exceptionally meritorious service, Ranger Borja's contributions to the nation are phenomenal and enduring. His exceptional leadership and service are in keeping with the highest traditions of the Ranger Creed and reflect great credit upon himself, the United States Army. Ladies and gentlemen, Command Sergeant Major Borja.
Okay, before I begin, I know prior to coming back in here, we all want to eat some chow. I see some of the Z monsters out there getting to you, so at this moment, just take a second. Everyone, please stand up. Please stand up. Please stand up. Okay, take a knee and drink water. Buenos Terrahatos and Familiamo. For those of you who may or may not know me, I'm from the island of Guam, out in South Pacific, which basically means good afternoon, good day, and thank you so much for coming to witness a special occasion to all the family and friends out there. It's truly an honor and a rite of passage to be selected and inducted into the Ranger Hall of Fame. As a Pacific Islander coming from the island of Guam, I would never have imagined being recognized in this induction ceremony. Just turning back history a little bit, 21 July 1944, 77 years ago, the island of Guam was liberated by U.S. military forces, which ended the Japanese occupation, and as of 1945, it's now Guam's largest celebration. For those servicemen and women who paid the ultimate sacrifice back then, giving us our citizenship and being in U.S. territory, we are eternally grateful and thankful to each and every one of them. And we do have one here that witnessed this occupation back then in 1944, sitting right in front of us, sir, and I tell you, thank you so very much. Since I joined the Army back in 1979 with an Airborne Ranger bonus option, I had no idea what I was getting myself into except getting that adrenaline rush of jumping out of a C-130 and being airborne qualified, and learning how to train in peace and survive in war. With the most elite organization called the 275th Ranger Battalion. There are many leaders, peers, subordinates, and friends that I'm eternally grateful for their contribution and who've impacted my career throughout the military. Several to mention, names like Andy McFarland, George Conrad, Jake Barton, John Mott, Haley Gail Diopti, Rick Judd, Reed Leisinger, Keith Connors, Bill Hazen, may he rest in peace, Bill Butler, Luke Fawn, John Reed, Gene Franks, Bill Sobat, Polo Taituave, Dewey Malupi, Eugene Bowden, Dave Podva, Michael McCran, Sterling Sawyer. Thanks for coming, Sterling. Same with you, Bill Butler and Sam. Michael McCran, Bill Mill, Roy Leon Guerrero, Lyle Brooks, Stanley Strickland, former 2 commanders. Thank you all for coming out there, captains. Jerry Klein, Jeff Mellinger, Rick Merritt, I see you out there, Ranger buddy. Ron Conley, I see you out there. Steve Hoagland, rest in peace, my Ranger buddy. Steve Kendricks, John Walker, Michael Foster, Steve Townsend, Wesley Batlone, may he rest in peace. Terry Crawford, Scott Malone, Nick Potamata, Frank Curry, Tony Thomas, KK Chen, Kay, I see you out there, buddy. Uncle Buck Hernan, Wayne Downing, Michael Guerin, my Ranger buddy over there, Colonel Dunmire. Great serving with you in Afghanistan. I may have left out many Rangers, and I truly apologize for that, and it's no intentions. I also had some good friends coming in here, Corey Olson, as well as Jim Paleka, retired Sergeant Major, my battle buddy. But to my best friend, Irish tough man guy from the state of Massachusetts, Ranger buddy and godfather of my youngest daughter, Oriel, Austin Joseph Moran, AKO AJ. He taught me, and I graduated from the Hooked on Phonics version with an A+. Okay? Come on, give it up. Thanks, AJ. To the Warhawk babies, Rangers Kyle Kelly, Michael Taylor, Blaze Brown, Chuck Zerman, Jason Brookhart, Ed Van Hoen, you all embodied the Ranger Creed, and thank you for watching my back. To the New England brothers, Jack Cunningham, Jim Dierman, Joe Cunningham, Mikey Richards, thanks for coming, Mikey. John Kelly and James Hubert Levinus. Thank you all for coming. Special thanks to Ranger Taff Yates and Max Mullins for encouraging me in making this possible today. To my Ranger buddy and former Charlie Rock 375 and my boss here, Mark Dean, it means a lot having your presence here and the support from Team Rocky. Thank you for coming, Mark. To a family friend by the name of Ranger Don Reed and his beautiful wife, Felicia, thank you so much for coming out on this special occasion. It means a lot to me. Thank you both. Also, some of you he's stuck in, but some of you may or may not know that he's here in our presence. The 14th Sergeant Major of the Universe Army National Guard is here, Sergeant Major John Sampao. Let's give him a hand. Sergeant Major Sampao, thank you for your presence. In closing, this would never have been possible with the unwavering support of my lovely, without the support, love, and admiration from my wife and kids. My wife, Duette, coming up on 40 years this October. Thank you, my love. You've been right there. For my 3 kids, my wife thought they were going to look like monkeys when they were born. I can say that I'm married to her still. But to my 3 kids, my oldest daughter, Star, Zachary, son Zachary, and Ariel, thanks for your patience and love, my kids. And to my great son-in-laws, Taylor and Brandon, thank you for watching over my daughter. And most importantly, to my grandkids. They mean the world. Because nothing melts the heart like a grandchild will. Safe travels to each and every one of you. Godspeed, and Rangers lead the way.
Our next inductee is Command Sergeant Major Mark A. Colazos. Command Sergeant Major retired Palacios is inducted into the Ranger Hall of Fame based on a lifetime dedicated to the Ranger and Special Operations community. Command Sergeant Major Palacios entered the United States Army on March 10, 1986 from Lafayette, Louisiana, beginning his 23-year military career. Command Sergeant Major Palacios has served in many light and airborne special operations units over the 23 dedicated years of service. He has served as an ammo bearer, assistant gunner, machine gunner, team leader, and weapons squad leader in Alpha Company, 3rd of the 75th Support Platoon, HHC, 3rd of the 75th, team member, Regimental Reconnaissance Detachment, team member, assistant team leader, Special Missions Unit, Ranger Instructor, and First Sergeant, 6th Ranger Training Battalion, and Command Sergeant Major, 4th Ranger Training Battalion. His combat tours and duty positions include Panama, Operation Just Cause, as an HHC gun chief TC on Rio Hato in 1989. Somalia, Operation Restore Hope, an assault team member, TF Ranger, 1993. Bosnia, I-4, S-4, Commander, Security Detail, 1995 and 1998. Afghanistan, Operation Enduring Freedom as the HHC First Sergeant from 04 to 05. Iraq, Operation Iraqi Freedom as the first of the 36th Infantry Mechanized Command Sergeant Major from 06 to 07. Command Sergeant Major Palacios continues to find ways to serve our great nation's military. He currently works for CACI, supporting the Squad Performance Metrics Team, Program Manager, Integrated Augmented System, Program Executive Office, Office Soldier, Fort Belvoir, Virginia. Command Sergeant Major Palacios has clearly distinguished himself as a role model, setting the standard for all Rangers to follow, and his contributions undoubtedly merit inclusion among our community's finest. Ladies and gentlemen, Command Sergeant Major Palacios.
Well, all I can say is that I'm honored and humbled to be inducted into the 2021 Ranger Hall of Fame. I mean, this class is extremely impressive, and many mentors sitting behind me that I served with and for. So, with that said, my journey here began in August of 1986 when I was a PV2 ammo bearer in Weapons Squad, 3rd Platoon Alpha Company, 375. ACO was led by Captain McChrystal and First Sergeant Laws. We had just completed a grueling 12-mile road march. Many of my company had fell out, including my gunner and assistant gunner. And I myself had barely made this road march. It was the first road march in my unit. After completion of the road march, 3rd Platoon got in formation for a foot check, and we were sitting out on our rucksacks, boots off, OG 107 soaked in sweat. I remember thinking to myself, I'd made a mistake. Seeking the Ranger Regiment and failure for the first time in my short military journey was real. About that time, my platoon sergeant, Sir First Class Phillips, was trooping the line, stopped in front of me, looked down and said, "Good job, Colonel Clemens." And at that moment, my confidence began to soar, and I began to believe that I could do this job. I could be an airborne ranger. I want to thank the Ranger Regiment for shaping me into the soldier that I became. And And I want to thank the Ranger Training Brigade for providing me the tools and building blocks to the success of me and my soldiers. Thank you. I also want to thank the U.S. Army Ranger Association for taking care of me and my family. They've provided much support over the years. And I want to thank Colonel Ralph Puckett for those many nights at 6 RTB while we're grading and training Ranger, and at 4th RTB doing the same, and all his sage advice and his lead by example had a huge profound on me and a huge profound on the Ranger community, so I want to thank him today. To my Ranger buddies who served with me and shared the highest highs and the lowest lows as Rangers experience. I don't have time to name all of them, but I do want to recognize a few that are present today that came on my behalf. Rangers John Adam, Rangers Kurt Smith, Tracy Jenkins, Tim Dodson, Rick Merritt, Mark Sheehan, Tom Coleman, Greg Dura, Shane Jernigan, Al Zimmerman, Joe Uliberry, Bobby Lane. There's many other mentors in here that I don't have time to name, men like Sergeant Jeff Mellinger and others that are present. But I want to thank you for all the mentorship that you provided me over the years. For without you, I would not be standing here today. I want to recognize my parents, Max and Betty Colossus. I'm proud that you are my mom and dad. You shaped me and designed my character and raised me inside a loving relationship. You kept us close to our family over the years. At every turn in me and Diva's career, you were always there, bar none. I love you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. To my sons, Anthony and Spencer, could I make your dad any prouder? Your character, kindness, and confidence and success provide your mom and I a level of pride only a parent can understand. Both of you could not make your parents any prouder. And I ask that that the audience please keep Spencer in your prayers as he and his unit are currently deployed and leaves behind his lovely wife and daughter. Mara and Margie are my wonderful daughter-in-law and cutest granddaughter. And I feel your sentiment, Sir Major. Granddaughters are the next level. Mara, I could not be prouder of you and the family that you're building, you and Spencer. You guys are amazing. And most importantly, my amazing wife, Diva. You picked me up and dusted me off many times in our 35 years. You're a beautiful woman. You're my girl. You provided decisiveness, direction, and clarity to me and our boys. You moved mountains to raise our family. You led the way with your love, caring, support, and sage advice. This honor I receive today, I dedicate to you, my better half. The best decision of my life was to befriend your twin brother when I first laid eyes on you at Drama's Head. Back in 1992. Correction, 1982. I love you with all my heart, and I'm proud to be known as Diva's husband. Rangers Leader.
Our next inductee, Colonel Harvey J. Cook. Colonel Retired Cook was a key member of the 2nd Ranger Battalion staff under Lieutenant Colonel James E. Rudder during the preparation for and conduct of combat operations during World War II. As a Battalion S2 intelligence officer, he learned from his British commando partners German tactics, techniques, procedures, and weapons, and incorporated this knowledge into unit training for the D-Day invasion. He was deeply involved in preparing assault plans for the 2nd and 5th Ranger Battalions at Omaha Beach, and 2nd Rangers specifically for Pointe du Hoc War games, both tabletop and in the field, were integral to the preparation of Captain Cook's job was to set up the opposing force, assuring those posing as the enemy mimicked the Germans. On D-Day, Captain Cook landed at H Hour with 3 companies of the 2nd Ranger Battalion, A, B, C, and half the headquarters company attached to the 29th Division at Omaha Beach in the Dog Green sector near the Beerville Draw, where the heaviest losses occurred. Cook received the Silver Star for his courageous actions that day. His citation reads in part, with complete disregard for his personal safety, he moved from group to group along the beach, organizing an assault wave. Having completed his organization, he led his troops in a swift assault on the first ridgeline, contributing greatly towards success of the operation. In the Brittany campaign, Cook made a significant contribution to the success of the 2nd Ranger mission to cut off German forces at the tip of the peninsula west of Brest. The battle lasted until 9 September when the enemy commander in the area, Colonel Martin First, surrendered approximately 1,400 Wehrmacht soldiers to 300 Rangers. Ranger Cook set up this surrender with information gleaned from the French resistance and a Ranger patrol. Ranger Cook entered First Command post alone under a white flag and negotiated his formal surrender to Rudder. Captain Cook served with the 2nd Ranger Battalion through the rest of the war, the Hürten Forest and Battle of the Bulge, and the concluding attacks across Germany. After Colonel Rudder departed the battalion, Captain Cook became the face of the battalion, representing stability and continuity in the headquarters. For exceptionally meritorious service, Ranger Cook contributions to the nation are phenomenal and enduring. His exceptional leadership and service are in keeping with the highest traditions of the Ranger Creed and reflect great credit upon himself, the United States Army Rangers, and the United States Army. Ladies and gentlemen, to honor Colonel Retired Cook, his medallion is to be presented to his son, General Retired Donald Cook.
Well, it's certainly a proud day for Air Force General Officer to accept. For those of you that were at the dinner last night, I got accused of looking at hotel stars. And I wound up staying in one at the Abrams Hall. It's certainly a 5-star Army hotel. But nevertheless, on behalf of 3 generations of our family, I would like to thank the Ranger Hall of Fame members for nominating Harvey Cook and to the selection committee for recognizing his achievements. This is indeed a high honor, as well as a privilege to have his name added to the list of those heroes. We also need to thank Professor Tom Hatfield, who this morning was inducted as an honorary member, Ranger Hall of Fame member, class of 2020. Tom authored Dad's nomination narrative and is the author of the book, Rudder, From Leader to Legend, the story of Lieutenant Colonel Earl Rudder's life and leadership of the 2nd Ranger Battalion during World War II. I'd also like to thank my friend Lawson Bruder, who navigated us through the nomination process. My father was humble, and like so many World War II veterans, did not often speak about the war. He possessed the highest integrity and honesty, and was not boastful. He also had a great sense of humor. I believe he would have downplayed today's recognition and would have accepted this honor with great pride and humility. He was of his generation. He was of his generation. As Army brats, my sister Jean and I were exposed to the legend and lore of the 2nd Rangers at a very young age. We were fortunate to have lived in Germany during the 1950s. On one family vacation, we drove through the impassable terrain of the Hürtgen Forest. We saw the small church where the Rangers' physician, Doc Block, met his death. And then driving along one of the many narrow roads, we came to an abrupt stop to retrieve a German helmet that had been placed on the fence post. I still had the helmet. Jean and I had walked Omaha Beach and stood upon Point de Hoc. During all these visits, Dad was the narrator. An educator. He made sure we had an appreciation for the bravery, sacrifices, and dedication of the men of the 2nd Rangers. Late in life, my younger sister, Joanne, and I took Dad to see Saving Private Ryan. I was surprised when he agreed to go to the movies, because he always refused to watch World War II movies in the glorification of combat. After the movie, I asked him what he thought, and in typical understated fashion, he said it was a good story, very realistic battle scenes, but he remembered more carnage and chaos on Omaha Beach. On one of my last visits to see Dad, he reminisced about the 2nd Rangers, the men who survived and those that did not. Clearly, there was a bit of survivor's guilt in his voice. As he told me he had too much time to think about the war while he was confined in nursing home. He hardly spoke of Korea. He said it was too damn cold. Or Vietnam, it was too damn humid. Only talked about the Rangers. In 2014, my son and I, Chris joined me for the 70th anniversary of D-Day and the opening of the Ranger Information Center on Point de Hoc, and to honor his grandfather. Everywhere we went, we were met by open arms and gratitude by the French people of Normandy. On one occasion, we were kissed by a French lady who was told by her 92-year-old grandmother that she should kiss the first Americans she saw. That was us. The sacrifices made by 10,000 Americans on D-Day and following days are memorialized on the hallowed grounds of the American Cemetery at Colleyville. Again, thank you for inducting our father, grandfather, great-grandfather into the Ranger Hall of Fame. It is indeed an honor. I offer my personal congratulations to all those who have attained this high rank and to their families. The Ranger motto, Rangers Lead the Way, was forged in battle on Omaha Beach and remains steadfast today. After all, the SEALs have to have heroes too.
Our next inductee is Sergeant Stephen C. Crabtree. Sergeant Crabtree served with Company G Rangers, 75th Infantry with distinction, April 1969 and April 70. Sergeant Crabtree is inducted into the Ranger Hall of Fame for his service and embodiment of the Ranger Creed throughout his military career. Ranger Crabtree heard about some of the encounters of the Ranger feats from his surrogate father, Preston Hogue, who was a member of Darby's Rangers and scaled Point de Hoc. The more Stephen learned about the Rangers, the more he wanted to become one. He echoed the Ranger traditions by volunteering for United States Army, volunteering for Vietnam, and becoming a member of Company G Ranger 75th Infantry, carrying his choice of weapon, an M60 machine gun, known affectionately to him as Bullwinkle, for over 30 Ranger Alert missions. In perhaps as his greatest contribution to the greater Ranger community, Sergeant Crabtree was instrumental in the drive to put a brick in the National Ranger Memorial for every Ranger Alert killed in action in Vietnam. He collaborated with the National Ranger Memorial, the 75th Ranger Regiment Association, and others, which resulted in nearly $100,000 for the project. Mission accomplished. He then helped raise money for bricks for those listed on the Fallen Angels list and members of the 1st Battalion who were killed in action or training. Volunteering is a word that he has lived up to and continues to this day. In 1990, he was instrumental in the formation of G Company Ranger Association and served as the president, chairman of the board of directors, director, and concessions officer. In 1992, he joined the 75th Ranger Regiment Association and has served as an operations officer, a unit director, and eventually serving as president between 2005 and 2007. He sat on the Ranger Executive Board for the Ranger Hall of Fame selections. Stephen continues to serve today as a board member of the G75th. For exceptionally meritorious service, Ranger Crabtree's contributions to the nation are phenomenal and enduring. His exceptional leadership and service are in keeping with the highest traditions of the Ranger Creed and reflect great credit upon himself, the United States Army Rangers, and the United States Army. Ladies and gentlemen, Sergeant Crabtree.
This may break your heart, but I'm going to make this really short. Early in 1968, I received a telegram from the President of the United States, Lyndon B. Johnson. He wanted me to go to work for him for a couple of years. Well, I guess with what's happened today, you could say I've now been inducted twice. Let's move up to 1972. My wife Lori and I were reading the Sunday paper. I was reading the sports section. She was reading the Parade magazine. I was going to ask her to stand up now, but boy, if I did, she'd kill me. Anyway, in that magazine, there was an article about a Ranger Memorial being built here at Fort Benning, and that they were supporting it by the sale of bricks. Well, she ordered a brick for me, and you know, I didn't think very much about it, but if she would have had any idea of the fire that brick was going to light in my heart, I sometimes wonder if she would have done it. Oh, I didn't really think much about it, but about 3 years later, a friend of mine was coming TDY down here to Columbus. I asked him to shoot a picture of my brick and bring it back, and he did. It was a great picture. I put it on my mantle. But every time I walked by and I looked at it, I thought of the 31 men in my unit that didn't come home from Vietnam. It bothered me so much that I put the picture face down on the mantle. I didn't want to look at it anymore. And then it was almost like a miracle. My employer, the Donald Douglas Aircraft Company, sent out a notice that they had a new matching funds program. And as long as the money went to a 501c charitable organization, that they would match dollar for dollar anything that their employees donated up to $5,000. Well, I called the Ranger Memorial, and some guy answered the phone there. His name was Major General Kenneth C. Lure. He said, yeah, the Ranger Memorial is a 501c charitable organization. And I told him, well, I'm going to raise the money to buy 31 bricks for all the men in my unit that were killed in Vietnam. And little did either one of us know at that time that this buck sergeant and that two-star general were going to become great friends. And that it's really hard the first time a buck sergeant calls a two-star general by his first name, because you don't know if your heart's in your throat. Anyway, and one other thing that we didn't realize is that those 31 bricks were going to grow to over 500. I couldn't have done it without Ken's help. I'd like to thank the men of G Company Ranger Association for nominating me. I'd like to thank the 75th Ranger Regiment Association for forwarding my packet. And I'd like to thank the Ranger Executive Committee for selecting me. I don't really know if I really deserve this award, but I will accept it and I will wear it with pride, not for anything that I've done, but for memory and remembrance of the 417 long-range reconnaissance patrol personnel, long-range patrol personnel, and the Rangers of the 75th Infantry that gave their lives in Vietnam, and also every Ranger that has given their life in great training or in combat since. I'm going to close now by plagiarizing John Fritzinger's epilogue of the documentary he did on G Company. We did not die in Vietnam, and I would be remorse if I didn't mention our next mission. Not as Ranger companies, not as Ranger teams, but simply our motto, sua sponte, of our own accord, and each of us in our own way should strive to make this world a little better place now than it was when we came into it. Gentlemen, we are in good company. Let's get on with the mission. Thank you very much.
Our next inductee is Command Sergeant Major Richard L. Davis. Command Sergeant Major retired Davis served the Joint Special Operations Command as Command Sergeant Major from 1996 to 1998. He is inducted into the Ranger Hall of Fame for his service and embodiment of the Ranger Creed throughout his military career. Command Sergeant Major Davis entered the United States Army on 17 June 1968 and was assigned to the 173rd Airborne Brigade as a long-range reconnaissance patrol member in N Company, 75th Ranger Infantry. He held many NCO leadership positions within the Special Missions Unit, to include Troop Sergeant Major, Squadron Operations Officer, Assessment and Selection Sergeant Major, Operational Squadron Sergeant Major, and the Special Mission Unit Command Sergeant Major. He has over 29 years of professional military experience in both special operations and joint commands. He has 15 years experience as a member of a primer special missions unit, 2 years with a joint command, and 5 years serving on the command and general staff from 1993 to 1998. Command Sergeant Major Davis culminated his career as the Joint Special Operations Command, JSOC. His military awards and decorations include Defense Superior Service Medal, Legion of Merit, Bronze Star, Purple Heart, 1 Oak Leaf Cluster, Meritorious Service Medal, Army Commendation Medal, 3 Oak Leaf Clusters, Army Good Conduct Medal, 8th Award, Army of Occupation Medal, National Defense Service Medal with Bronze Service Star, Humanitarian Service Ribbon, Republic of Vietnam Campaign Medal, Joint Meritorious Unit Award, 1 Oak Leaf Cluster, Valorous Unit Award, Republic of Vietnam Cross of Gallantry Unit Citation with Palm, Republic of Vietnam Civil Action Unit Citation with Palm, Combat Infantryman Badge, Master Parachutist Badge, Military Free Fall Parachutist Badge, German Parachutist Badge, Malaysian Parachutist Badge, Combat Diver Badge, Drill Sergeant Identification Badge, and 2 Overseas Service Bars. For exceptionally meritorious service, Ranger Davis's contribution to the nation are phenomenal and enduring. His exceptional leadership and service are in keeping with the highest traditions of the Ranger Creed and reflect great credit upon himself, the United States Army Rangers, and the United States Army. Ladies and gentlemen, Command Sergeant Major Davis.
Veteran heroes, distinguished guests, fellow general officers, commanders, sergeant majors. I'm extremely humbled to be here today. I didn't get here by myself. There were a tremendous amount of people over the course of almost 30 years that helped get me here. There is no way I could recognize or mention all of those, but I will do my best in generalizing and thanking those that got me where I am today. The first thanks goes to God Almighty and the Lord Jesus Christ, Amen, who blessed me, gave me mercy, and all of the bad things that I got. I looked at those as character builders, and I need a lot of it. I thank my parents, a soldier and a nurse who came together and instilled in me a sense of service to my fellow mankind and to apply hard work to everything you do and never quit. To my wife of 45 years, going on 46, my son, daughters, grandchildren, awesome, been there to support me. And truth be known, I wasn't home very much, so the way they turned out in an outstanding manner is due to my wife. She can tell you many stories, and all of them would start with, and Dad was not here. Broken legs, kids getting to school, driving lessons, broken lawnmower, fix the car, and Dad was not here. So I owe her a tremendous amount. Son, you've done well. Colonel, United States Army, fellow Ranger. Whoop. My daughters, who could not make it, also exceptionally well. They're educated, healthy, have jobs, great Americans. And the grandchildren, as mentioned before, absolutely awesome. Kevin Connell, are you here? Where's your hand? Tommy Wilburn, Hawk Brown, Colonel Nixon, Mike Hall, thank you for the nomination, the support. I think as soon as this is done, you ought to report to the aid shed and have your minds checked. I want you to know it was enough just to be considered. Just to be considered was enough. And I thank you for that. My service started in Vietnam, and where I was introduced to Special Mission Unit, Long Range Patrol Reconnaissance guys, and that's where I knew I had found a home. All volunteers, guys I wanted on my right and left, guys I wanted behind me, guys who would take care of each other, and that's where I got the bug. That's where I wanted to stay, and so for the next 29 plus years, that's what I strive for. I want to identify some that are here today with me that were in Vietnam with us then. Jim Strassner, you stand up a second, let everybody know who you are. I want to introduce you to the current world champion over 70 hockey championship team, Jim Strassner. We just won that in Tampa down at the Lightning hockey tournament there, so Ranger leading the way, still at 70. Stick, Leonard Peters, great soldier. In the Ranger Creed, and this was before the Ranger Creed was started, by the way, we endeavored to follow some of the same virtues. In the letter E on Rangers, there's a saying that says, I shall never leave a fallen comrade to fall into the hands of the enemy. Stick, we brought you home. You were a great soldier. Thank you. To the pilots that pulled us out 52 years ago, almost to this day, 29 July 1969, the Casper pilots. I call them the forerunners of 160th. Where's Casper at? There they are right there. Evan McDonald, he got the Distinguished Flying Cross that day. His pilots never failed to pick us up, no matter what the risk was. Absolute heroes in my mind. I don't know how you guys do it, but thank you, and I appreciate you being here. Ken Murray, Pete Campbell, Billy Shanahan, Curry, all mentors, guys who ran the field, were team leaders, ran the missions, moved on to be in the TOC, mentored further team leaders, helped us get through missions, gave them great advice. I'm sure they saved many lives. Don Sexton. A real brother. My first team leader in Vietnam. I'm still with him. He's a legend. 46 years of active duty service. Called back to active duty at age 64, put on a Halo scuba team, SF team, in South Com. Called back to duty by name by General Cleveland to serve in Afghanistan. Don, please stand. Pete Campbell on pure persistence, had the name Clemens. Disobeyed orders, as did the pilots, and came looking for us. And he saved our lives, and the team made it all out in total and came home. Just a part of the Ranger Creed. Never leave a fallen comrade behind. I have so much to owe. The word deployments for Rangers means we're going to go together and we're going to get a task. We're going to go on a mission and we're going to fight. And we're going to take all the things we've learned and put it together and we're going to kick some butt. However, the word deployment to the spouses means something completely different. It means being at home alone, don't know what's going to happen, get stuck with cutting the lawn, fixing the lawnmower, the car breaks down, still cook the meals, still do the laundry, get the kids to school, take care of them when they're sick. And the dreaded wait and not knowing what's going on. Who's going to pull up in front of the house? Who's going to knock on the door? And I'm convinced that those spouses, Ranger wives, go through a hell of a lot more than we do. And I know there is PTSD with some of those wives. And we tend to forget that. You are true heroes. Stand up, please. Spouses, wives, Ranger wives, stand up, please. There is so much I owe. I want to mention two general officers, General Canavan and General Garrison. Both men of principle, leaders, and took care of their men. I am so honored to have worked with both of them, to know them and still call them friend and stay in contact with them. They're outstanding soldiers, outstanding Americans, best friends you could ever have. Again, thank you very much. Rangers lead the way. God bless America.
Our next inductee is Command Sergeant Major Retired Carlton E. Dietrich. Command Sergeant Major Retired Dietrich is being inducted into the Ranger Hall of Fame for extraordinary service to the U.S. Army, the 75th Ranger Regiment, and to this nation. Of the 26 years active duty, Command Sergeant Major Dietrich served 16 and a half consecutive years were within the Ranger community, having served with the 2nd and 3rd Ranger Battalions and the Ranger Training Brigade. Command Sergeant Major Dietrich began his service with the 2nd Ranger Battalion as a private and ended his time in the Ranger community as a first sergeant of 2 companies within the 2nd Ranger Battalion. During his time within the Ranger Regiment, he participated in 2 low-level combat parachute operations and led Rangers into combat with distinction. Within the regiment, he held leadership positions from rifle team leader to first sergeant. He retired in 2004, and in 2006, Command Sergeant Major Dietrich was nominated and received the Distinguished Member of the 75th Ranger Regiment. After his retirement, he served as a consultant to various Army units, to include 2nd Ranger Battalion in active combat zones. Throughout his retirement, Command Sergeant Major Dietrich continued to mentor and counsel Rangers returning from combat and assisted veterans transitioning into the civilian world. While serving as a civilian consultant for the 2nd Ranger Battalion, he was active as a mentor and counselor to those Rangers that he was invited by the battalion commander and Command Sergeant Major to serve as the guest speaker for the Expert Infantryman Badge ceremony and later the Jumpmaster graduation ceremony. He has never turned down the opportunity to assist active duty Rangers and Ranger veterans when it came to their health and welfare. For exceptionally meritorious service, Ranger Dietrich's contributions to the nation are phenomenal and enduring. His exceptional leadership and service are in keeping with the highest traditions of the Ranger Creed and reflect great credit upon himself, the United States Army Rangers, and the United States Army. Ladies and gentlemen, Command Sergeant Major Dietrich.
All right, everyone. We're almost halfway through. Hang in there, okay? All right. Okay. All right, thank you all for being here today. I want to thank every Ranger that I have ever served with. Without them, I would not be standing here today. The finest and bravest men I ever met in my life, I met in a Ranger regiment. These are Rangers that I serve with, all right? And I want to personally thank them. Along with that, I want to personally thank Ranger Mike Palacios for nominating me. And as the old first sergeant would say, you done good, Ranger. You done good. All right? Also, I want to let you know that I'm honored, and once again, I'm humbled at being inducted into the Ranger Hall of Fame. As everyone knows, serving as a Ranger is one of the greatest things that can happen to you. To be given the opportunity to stand in the ranks of a Ranger Rifle Company, serving the greater good. You know that it doesn't get much better than that. How American. I believe that we as Rangers share an abiding faith and love for this great nation, and I will tell you that if I was 18 years old and I had a chance to do it all over again, I would serve my country as an infantryman in the 75th Ranger Regiment. As a young Ranger, all of my leaders were combat veterans from Vietnam. They were warriors. They were giants. All right? They were my mentors. They had names like Mattoon and Walter, Heckard, Downing, Powell, Stock, Boyles, Klein, Conrad, Cummings, and Leon Guerrero. They taught me how to be an infantryman. They taught me how to be a Ranger and a soldier. I was a rifle squad leader in Grenada. I was a rifle platoon sergeant in Panama and a first sergeant in Haiti. Honored to lead Rangers in combat, and to this very day, I hold that service as my greatest privilege. My combat infantryman's badge and a Ranger scroll on my right shoulder as my highest award. Serving as a Ranger has been the most enjoyable and most rewarding experience that I could have ever done with my life. But I will tell you there's been great loss along the way of friends, Rangers that are no longer here. I thank them, I remember them, and I will not forget them. And I will not forget what they have done for our great nation. They were all three-time volunteers, every one of them, who heard the call that seemed to silence all others, the call to serve the country as a Ranger. I believe that all Rangers' distinguishing feature is that when freedom is threatened, they muster. They tend to freedom first. Everything else is a distant second, to include self-interest and personal gain. Rangers understand that freedom is a legacy on loan for all of us, for all of Americans. Right now it's ours to enjoy, to cherish, to preserve, and to protect, and to pass on to the next generation honorably and intact. And because they do this in their humble, proud, and quiet professionals, I believe the sweet face of Mother Liberty smiles more broadly upon them. In some unseen way, Rangers share the same DNA as the farmers who stood at Concord Bridge and Rutter's Rangers at Point to Hawk. They are true patriots and true Americans. The last person I'd like to thank is my wife, Sylvia. 37 years ago, she took my breath away. All right. She's the finest Ranger buddy that I could have ever asked for. She's a wonderful wife, a mom, and a person. And I'm going to tell you right now, she's smarter than all of the people in SOCOM. Right? She has more energy than everyone on the regimental staff. All right? And along with that, she's tougher than every single RI on the Morgan team. All right? I want to say thanks, Mama. I love you. And thank you all for this great day. God bless you, and God bless the Rangers. Rangers lead the way.
Our next inductee is Colonel Jack V. Donovan. Colonel retired Donovan served in the Ranger Training Brigade as the training officer and 5th RTB commander with distinction. Colonel Donovan is inducted into the Ranger Hall of Fame for his service and embodiment of the Ranger Creed throughout his 26 years of military service. As the Brigade Operations and Training Officer, Colonel Donovan spearheaded the formal creation of the Desert Phase of Ranger School, creation of the 7th Ranger Training Battalion, and the forward positioning of the phase to Dugway Proving Grounds, Utah. He also formulated the concept training modules and organization of the Long Range Surveillance Course and the Light Leaders Course, discovering there was no standardized procedures for conducting airborne operations in the Ranger, LRSC, and Light Leaders courses. He initiated, crafted, staffed, and implemented an airborne standard operating procedures manual for use in all phases of Ranger training. As commander, 5th Ranger Training Battalion, he designed a strategy to publicize the many contributions of the unit's Rangers in the local community and constructed an identity for the Mountain Rangers that remains in effect still today. Colonel Donovan also took the initiative to have the intelligence scenario for the Mountain Phase completely modernized to align with the Joint Readiness Training Center, where the vast majority of students will train with their parent organizations. He then convinced the brigade to follow suit, making Ranger School phases, intelligence scenarios common and sequential. Colonel Donovan's foresight and dedication produced other efforts that continue in today's Ranger School, and his legacy remains in the mountains of North Georgia. For exceptionally meritorious service, Ranger Donovan's contributions to the nation are phenomenal and enduring. His exceptional leadership and service are in keeping with the highest traditions of the Ranger Creed and reflect great credit upon himself, the United States Army, and Rangers and the United States Army. Ladies and gentlemen, Colonel Donovan.
My colleagues and those who know me well know I'm a man of few words. I'm extremely proud to be standing up here today receiving this recognition, and I am most appreciative. When I was a senior captain, I spent 5 years in the 82nd Airborne Division. They're pretty tough years. And I wanted to come to Fort Benning to the Ranger Department to be the senior tactical officer because I thought that was a really cool job. You got to interact with all the Ranger students and maybe make an impact on some of them. When I arrived here at Fort Benning, there had been a reorganization. The Ranger Department was now the Ranger Training Brigade, and I became the S3 Operations and Training Officer. It turned out to be a very action-packed year, and I was never bored. The projects, issues, and initiatives that myself and my team worked on are largely the reason why I'm standing up here today. Colonel J.D. Kirby, a Hall of Famer, is here with us today. He was the commander at the Mountain Ranger Camp in Dahlonega at the time, and I was that captain from higher headquarters who was such a pest and a nuisance with 1,000 questions, but he handled them with grace and very professional all the time. You know, later I was fortunate enough to get command in Dahlonega. And what a gem that is up there. It's a well-known secret, not a well-known secret. I was surrounded by tremendous non-commissioned officers, and the first one, of course, was my Ranger buddy, Command Sergeant Major Louise Palacios, another Hall of Famer who we lost this past year. He made me a better Ranger and a much better officer, and I'm forever in his debt. I'm also grateful for those dedicated non-commissioned officers because they're the genesis of what happens in the mountains because of the way they're out there. And very dedicated, hardworking, held me to a standard and wouldn't let me go. And for that, I'm forever, ever grateful. And these are legends like Ranger Tommy Wilburn, Mike Ramsey, Willie Nunez. Thanks, guys. You meant the world to me then, you still do, and we continue to keep in touch. I'm also very thankful that my wife, Nikki is here with us today and brought the family. She is the foundation of our family. I love you, sweetie, and you're the one that guides and nurtures our children. Miriam, who's a junior at American University. Kathleen, who will be a freshman at Dickinson College. And Kathleen's twin brother, John, who will be a freshman at Gettysburg College. I'm also very especially grateful today that my sister Patricia and my brother Michael were able to come here from New England. And I've heard stories off and on over the years about some of my antics in the Army, but they've never been able to participate or witness any of them because of geography, mostly. But they're here with us today, and I thank you for making the trip. I also thank all of you for sharing your time with my fellow inductees, a great group of Rangers and families, and thank you all so much. Rangers lead the way.
Our next inductee is Command Sergeant Major Hugh A. Roberts. Command Sergeant Major retired Roberts is inducted into the Ranger Hall of Fame for his outstanding Ranger career, combat experience, and continued support to the Ranger community. Command Sergeant Major Roberts has held every enlisted leadership position within the 75th Ranger Regiment, from team leader to regimental Command Sergeant Major. Command Sergeant Major Roberts deployed in support of Operation Urgent Fury, Grenada, Operation Uphold Democracy, Haiti, Operation Safe Haven, Panama, Operation Joint Guardian, Kosovo, Operation Enduring Freedom, Afghanistan, and Operation Iraqi Freedom, Iraq. Command Sergeant Major Roberts was considered a father-like figure for his ability to coach, teach, and mentor young men in the art of rangering and living the Ranger creed. As a regimental Command Sergeant Major Roberts was instrumental in standardizing the Force Modernization section of RS-8 to better equip Rangers during the War on Terror and beyond. Then Specialist Roberts participated in daring low-level daylight combat jump into Point Salinas Airfield, Grenada. Follow-on missions included rescuing students from the True Blue Medical Campus and air assault raid in Calvigny Barracks. First Sergeant Roberts led Alpha Company 2nd Ranger Battalion on a no-notice deployment to Operation Uphold Democracy, Haiti. During a deployment for training to Panama, Command Sergeant Major Roberts was called upon to put down a Cuban refugee uprising in the Operation Safe Haven. As Command Sergeant Major of the 2nd Ranger Battalion on 9/11, Command Sergeant Major Roberts was on the ground when the first Rangers from the battalion were deployed for Operation Enduring Freedom. During his time as the Regimental Command Sergeant Major of the 75th Ranger Regiment, Operation Iraqi Freedom was initiated. Hugh Roberts was the first Ranger Command Sergeant Major to lead men into 2 geographically separated battlefields in modern times. Command Sergeant Major Roberts' exceptional and selfless dedication to duty reflect great credit upon himself, the Ranger community, and the United States Army. Ladies and gentlemen, Command Sergeant Major Roberts.
Gold Star families, other distinguished guests, it's truly an honor for me to be inducted into the Ranger Hall of Fame, especially when you consider previous inductees. I'm truly honored. But you'd be mistaken if you thought this was a individual achievement. It's not. I spent 20 years in the Ranger Regiment, and during that time I've had a number of senior NCOs that have mentored me, officers that have mentored me, and got me to where I'm standing here today. I want to acknowledge 3 of those mentors right now. First one is Command Sergeant Major Jeff Mellinger. I got to Bravo Company, 2nd Ranger Battalion, about 1977. And he was the scariest person I've ever met in my life. I was trying to keep a low profile because it was pretty hard because I was only the Black Ranger in the platoon. So there's no keeping a low profile. I got a lot of attention. The other one is Sergeant Major Jerry Klein, who's one of the first sergeants, and Mike Hall. And these three individuals are responsible for me being here today. They mentored, coached, chewed my ass, all at the same time, but I appreciate them for that. The flip side of that are Ranger subordinates. There's no successful leader without your little hoods. When I say little hoods, I'm talking about the privates, Spec 4s, the E5s. They put 150 pounds worth of gear, jump out of the plane in the middle of the night. They're giving you 110%. And you're never going to be successful without them. I'm going to acknowledge one of those individuals here today, and that's Commander Sergeant Major Donnie Boyle. I know, Donnie, you're embarrassed now. I'm not going to make you stand up or nothing like that. But I've had the privilege of knowing Donnie since he was a private in an attack company, and kind of watched him grow. And I think the proudest moment for me was called me up one night and says, I've been selected to be the Commander Sergeant Major, 2nd Ranger Battalion. You know, and those little boys that come like your kids. And that was a proud moment for me when he called me and told me that. And he supported me over the years. And Donnie, I appreciate you putting this packet in for me. I definitely appreciate that, brother. Okay, once again, I'm deeply honored for this achievement, and Rangers do the way.
Our next inductee is Lieutenant General Michael Ferdinand. Lieutenant General retired Ferdinand is inducted into the Ranger Hall of Fame. Lieutenant General Ferdinand served honorably in the 75th Ranger Regiment and airborne communities for over 35 years. He served in 2nd Ranger Battalion as the S5, S1, and Bravo Company commander. He served as the 75th Ranger Regiment's S5, where he led the staff effort to develop and commission Fort Benning's Ranger Memorial. Lieutenant General Ferdinand next became 3rd Ranger Battalion's liaison officer and S3 operations officer. In October 1993, Lieutenant General Ferdinand deployed to Mogadishu, Somalia, as part of Operation Restore Hope. Lieutenant General Ferdinand then served as the regimental S3 operations officer during the preparations for deployment to Haiti. He commanded 3rd Ranger Battalion from July 1996 to June 1998 and took the lead in developing the 75th Ranger combative programs with the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Academy. As 11th Infantry Regiment's commander, Lieutenant General Ferdinand adapted the 75th Ranger Regiment's hand-to-hand fighting program to develop the modern Army Combatives Program. As a general officer, he deployed 3 times to Iraq as part of Operation Iraqi Freedom, where he coordinated campaigns to counter al-Qaeda in Iraq, built Iraqi capability, and distributed counter-IED technologies to the force. Lieutenant General Ferdinand next served as the commanding general of Fort Benning from 2009 to 2010, where he approved the expansion of the 75th Ranger Regiment compound and improvements to the Ranger Training Brigade's physical facilities. After retiring from the U.S. Army in 2014, Lieutenant General Ferdinand dedicated his life to veterans assistance. He founded the Ferdinand Group, a leadership development and consulting business where he mentored countless veteran-owned businesses. Since 2018, Lieutenant General Ferdinand has served as the CEO of the National Veterans Memorial and Museum in Columbus, Ohio. For exceptionally meritorious service, Ranger Ferdinand's contributions to the nation are phenomenal and enduring. His exceptional leadership and service are in keeping with the highest traditions of the Ranger Creed, and reflect great credit upon himself, the United States Army Rangers, and the United States Army. Ladies and gentlemen, Lieutenant General Ferdinand.
Well, no kidding, it's a great day to be a Ranger, and a great day to be a Ranger here at Fort Benning. And I really am truly humbled and honored to be inducted into the Ranger Hall of Fame. I can remember on about day 3 of Ranger School, I was thinking, I'm not sure this stuff's for me. I was there with Sergeant Major Dietrich, and encouragement and leadership by people such as he, and a never quit attitude got me through that. I want to really thank the Ranger Regiment, the leadership of the Ranger Regiment and the Airborne Ranger Training Brigade for putting this on. There's no tasking that would have brought this group of people together. It's the brotherhood and the family of Rangers, and by continuing it, you not only honor the legacy of the regiment and of the ARTB, but actually you keep these generations of Rangers together. It was an honor to be with Medal of Honor recipient and real live hero and everyone's friend, Colonel Ralph Puckett, last night, who mentored me quite a bit when I was 3rd Ranger Battalion Commander, because he would come in and say, Mike, I have a question. Is there any good reason 3 Rangers from Alpha are cutting the grass on a paved field with scissors? And I would say, I'll take a look at that one. Right. So welcome home, everybody. This is the home of the American Ranger, the home of the Airborne, the home of the Infantry, the home of the Cavalry, the home of the Army, and the home for warrior ethos. And truly I am home, because as you heard, I have some Fort Benning time under my belt. I commanded Fort Benning as a CG. I commanded the 11th Regiment as a Colonel. I commanded 3rd Ranger Battalion as a Lieutenant Colonel. And I served here as a Major, went to the Captain's Career Course, IOBC Airborne School and Ranger Schools. And in fact, almost every year since 1979, I have lived or visited Fort Benning. And if you consider Dan Farrader, Patty Farrader, Mary Whitney Farrader, who all went to the basic course, and Patty and Dan Ranger School and the like, and Dan's service within the regiment here, and Patty's in Savannah and out west, second. We got a lot of skin in the game. I'm only here today because my life has been so aligned by the Ranger Creed and the Abrams Charter and my faith in Christ. Margie and I have lived a lot of places and met a lot of friends, and you are all our extended family. In all things and every day, I endeavor to always be that example of a leader that honors the past and the present and the future Rangers. I want them to see that you can do it the right way, or you're accountable and you stand up if you fall short. Thanks to Margie and our awesome kids, Megan, Dan, Patty, and Mary Whitney, and their super spouses and 6 grandkids. We'll leave the granddaughters and grandsons, so I'm not going to cry like these guys. But there's that moment when that grandbaby blinks at you, and it's over. And forever after, they catch you. I want to thank a few people. I want to thank my friends and fellow Rangers, my classmates from the Citadel, Roger Huff, Tim Ishii, and Steve Mayer. Thanks for coming. And really, this is sort of the theme of I've been under the watchful eye of so many who shaped me over the years. Unbelievably, from Charlie Airborne in Alaska, north of the range, Fairbanks, my first sergeant Daryl Langfinger, my RTO, Bobby Tuck, and squad leader, team leader, squad leader, Jeff Moran. They're over there. Give them a big round of applause. 1986. I want to thank the Rangers who I met while I was in 2nd Ranger Battalion and Commanding B Company. At that point, Platoon Sergeant Doug Greenway, Jeff Mellinger, the RCO, Joe Stringham. I interviewed to go to 2nd Ranger Battalion with Gary Spear. I've been mentored by Gary, Bob Wagner, Jerry Klein, and believe it or not, in 1959 I met General Dale Daly at the U.S. Army War College when his dad and my dad were classmates, and he played football with my big brother. It's great to see you, sir. Now, 3rd Ranger Battalion I spent some time in. God bless John Keneally. God bless Ken Stouse, and God bless our fallen Rangers and Task Force Ranger buddies from Mogadishu. We all know and should say God bless Ralph Bean for who he was and all that he did. I want to thank Bob Spurlock and Rick Lamb and Bill and Mindy Butler and Mike Hall and Craig Nixon for their mentorship and friendship over the years and all that we did together. And there's so many of you here that I served with as well. And I wouldn't be standing up here were it not for you. You and all the Rangers and paratroopers, literally we say it all the time, carried me. You never let me down. You always took care of the Rangers and the paratroopers and their families. So at breakfast this morning, the hotel manager asked why we were here. And Roger, my pseudo classmate, said, and told him, we're here for the Ranger Hall of Fame induction. And he kind of said, oh, wow. And Roger said, yeah, it's really just like a badass convention. So from standing up here and sitting up here, looking out into the crowd, Roger, I think you got it right. There's a bunch of badass people in here. And they always have beautiful ladies all around them. So I wish my father could be here, and that Marty's dad could be here, and I know they're looking down on all of us with pride and a giant smile. I'm really glad that all of you are here. I think you have to fight to keep these relationships together. It's too easy to let it fade. Rekindle them. I also think it's real important to ask people, how are you doing? And really mean it. And then get involved and find a way to stem this PTSD, alcohol, and suicide. We can do that. You've run across and swept streets for each other. So stay where you need to. So thank you all. God bless you all. God bless America. God bless the Rangers. Rangers equally.
Our next inductee is Sergeant Major Clemens E. Lemke. Sergeant Major retired Lemke is inducted into the Ranger Hall of Fame for his service and embodiment of the Ranger Creed throughout his military career. Sergeant Major Lemke served more than 28 years in various Ranger and Special Operations assignments throughout his Army career. He had a highly successful career, especially with the Ranger community, beginning with his extended combat tour in Vietnam with Company G, Ranger 75th Infantry. Performing as team leader with 2 Ranger teams, Sergeant Major Lemke excelled in his knowledge, judgment, and leadership, and was asked to train and evaluate new members of the company on combat missions. While in Company G, Sergeant Major Lemke was awarded a Bronze Star with V device and a Purple Heart. His attention to detail and leadership earned him the respect and admiration of his command, staff, and peers. After Vietnam, Sergeant Major Lemke served with Company O, Arctic Rangers, 75th Infantry in Alaska, and again excelled as a leader and team member. 1974, Sergeant Major Lemke graduated from Ranger School and was the honor graduate of his class. He was retained at the Ranger School as an instructor assigned to 3rd Ranger Company, TSB, U.S. Army Infantry School, Fort Benning. Following his time as Ranger instructor, he was transferred to Special Forces with Detachment Berlin Brigade in Germany, where he traveled throughout East Germany and Soviet-controlled sectors to conduct sensitive collection intelligence operations. In 1979, Sergeant Major Lemke was selected to conduct highly sensitive missions in Iran and conducted multiple dangerous missions under the direction of National Command Authority in support of a Department of Defense Special Missions Unit. After working alone, Sergeant Major Lemke was again successful in his mission and was awarded the Defense Superior Service Medal and was personally commended by the President of the United States. In 1986, Sergeant Major Lemke was assigned to a Tier 1 unit in Washington, D.C., intelligence support activity. In 1990, Sergeant Major Lemke was operational detail to the CIA, where he supported many different operations in various countries. Upon retirement, Sergeant Major Lemke was awarded the Distinguished Service Medal. After retirement, Sergeant Major Lemke worked with the CIA for approximately 20 years, and between his military and CIA service, served in over 20 foreign countries. For exceptionally meritorious service, Ranger Lemke's contributions to the nation are phenomenal and enduring. Sergeant Major Lemke set the Ranger standards for others to follow. Ladies and gentlemen, Sergeant Major Lemke.
Rangers, ladies and gentlemen, I'm extremely proud to receive this honor here today. I'd like to share some of that with my friends and my family that are here today in the audience. Without their help, support, and love, I probably would not be anywhere near this podium here. Starting off with Al Stewart, a retired police captain from Greensboro, North Carolina. Al laid the groundwork for this entire effort and made sure it came to a successful conclusion. What most people don't know is he started this nomination effort in 1998. He done waited patiently for me to retire the second time before finally submitting the required paperwork. Al and I served together in G Company Rangers as team leaders. You can read some of our exploits in the latest patrolling magazine if you're interested. Al is the unit director for Company G at the present time and has received job offers from Hollywood to work there as a fiction writer. Next is Colonel Metaxas from Southern Pines, North Carolina. He and I go back to 1969 when we jumped into Turkey with the 1st Brigade of the 82nd. After serving with his dad, Brigadier General Metaxas in the 101st, Ted came down to July and became our CO. Upon return to Colonels, we once again crossed paths while assigned to the patrolling committee of the Ranger Department. Ted was instrumental in helping me bring my first wife from Vietnam to the States. When I felt it was time for a change in my career and switch berets, his contacts and introductions made the transition from Rangers to Special Forces less painful. He continued to support me for the rest of my career and beyond. Another G Company Ranger here is Larry Hodge. We first ran into each other while serving with the Lurks at Fort Bragg. Upon arrival in G Company in Vietnam, LD welcomed me with a bear hug and a 25-cent beer. We shared the same hooch, which became famous for having the only company-wide alarm clock, a live rooster, who was LD's pet. As you can imagine, we were not well liked by the rest of the Reconnaissance. We became the closest of friends and bonded even more when during the hot insertion at noon in the already overloaded Huey went into a rapid tailspin and LD sitting on top of one of the aluminum ladders started to go out the door. At the last second, I managed to grab hold of his belt and managed to pull him back in. We crashed anyway. What I was never quite able to figure out is why his wife told me on more than one occasion that I should have let him go. Changing Ranger companies, I get received calls. I was always fond of the extreme, and being forced to leave Vietnam, I transferred from the hot jungles to the cold AO of O Company Arctic Rangers. Stephen was a valued member of my team that always had my back and kept in touch with me over the years. Stephen became a very successful attorney and the only lawyer that I ever liked. Unfortunately, medical problems got the best of him. I know this trip here is very hard on him, and I really appreciate the effort he made to be here. Thanks, Steve. Leaving the Rangers, I get to Colonel Nugent. Bob became one of my last and best commanders. He holds the privilege of giving me my last ass chewing. But as you know, NCO always managed to get even. I did by asking him to put his uniform back on one more time and retire me. I also like to mention that his son, LB, who is in the Navy and stationed at Pensacola, Florida, took a one-day leave to come up here to be part of this event. I am surprised they let you go, the Navy, with all that CRT training that they have going on right now. I would definitely feel amiss if I did not acknowledge two visitors in the audience from the past who would like to remain anonymous. I appreciate their presence, and the only comment I would like to add is, you are above the rest. Last but not least, my thanks goes out to my family. Wife Dottie, daughters Christine and Demetra, son Aaron, and the honorary family member Gene, who drove down from North Carolina to be here. You and all the previously mentioned colleagues have known me since the beginning of my career. You have seen my ups and downs and experienced my shortcomings, yet you never gave up on me and stayed true friends for all these years. What else can a man ask for? Enough of the positive. Before I close this out, I would like to point out that we are in a very difficult period of time. We are missing leadership so desperately needed. Obama dismissed some 150 general officers during his term. Where are these officers today? I used to admire some of them, but all I see is silence. General Patton will turn over in his grave while witnessing the no shows we have on active duty at the time. Their policies and silence adds to the deep divide we currently experience. I asked to play a song here instead of giving a speech, but was discouraged. I'm afraid the wokeness has reached all the way down here. The left is trying to divide the military. The Rangers are one of the few firewalls left that we still have in place. I ask you not to give in to the political BS. Remain the patriots you are. The name of the song I wanted to play is "And I the Only One." It expresses exactly the way I feel about America right now. Looking out into the audience, I believe that I'm not the only one. Rock steady, and may God bless all of you. Rangers lead the way.
next inductee is Colonel Clarence C. Matsuda. Colonel retired Matsuda is inducted into the Ranger Hall of Fame for his service and embodiment of the Ranger Creed throughout his military career. Colonel Clarence Matsuda was awarded a Ranger tab after completing Ranger School in 22 March 1962. He used his Ranger training as a recon platoon leader with the 173rd Airborne Brigade, and while serving as executive officer for the 82nd Airborne Division Raider Detachment that included a combat deployment to the Dominican Republic. During his first tour in Vietnam, then Captain Matsuda was in command of the 9th Infantry Division Company when his unit came under withering fire from an enemy force entrenched in bunkers. Under his leadership, the enemy attack was broken, and Matsuda was awarded a Silver Star for his actions. Captain Matsuda was then handpicked to command the 9th Division Long Range Patrol Platoon and built it to a company-sized unit. There, his Ranger skills were invaluable when he accompanied a patrol to observe his men on a mission. The patrol made contact with the enemy, and Colonel Matsuda performed rear security as the Rangers made their way to a landing zone where they were successfully extracted. He demonstrated outstanding organizational ability by selecting Ranger qualified officers as his platoon leaders and supervising his Rangers as they built the first-class company area he designed at Camp Bearcat. He created training for his soldiers, started a 9th Division Recondo School that was so successful other units in Vietnam sent their long-range patrols to the school for training. Retiring after more than 26 years of service to his country, Ranger Matsuda continued to lead the way by serving as an Echo Company unit director and attending 75th Ranger Regiment Association meetings, where he nominated one of the former Rangers for president of the association and encouraged another to run for the same office, to which both were elected. Colonel Matsuda believed Rangers lost in combat should not be forgotten. Helped to design a memorial service held at Echo Company reunions. Ranger Creed is sacred to Colonel Matsuda, and he has lived it, thought, word, and deed. For exceptionally meritorious service, Ranger Matsuda's contributions to the nation are phenomenal and enduring. His exceptional leadership and service are in keeping with the highest traditions of the Ranger Creed and reflect great credit upon himself, the United States Army Rangers, and the United States Army. Ladies and gentlemen, to Colonel Matsuda, his medallion is to be presented to his son, Craig Matsuda.
Good afternoon. I'm pleased to represent my father, Colonel Clarence Matsuda, who is unable to be with us today, and I am honored to present his remarks now. I'd like to thank the Ranger Hall of Fame, the 75th Ranger Regiment, and the Airborne Ranger Training Brigade for the great honor of selection for the Ranger Hall of Fame. And I would like to thank the Lerps B Company for nominating me. I am grateful for your generosity and humbled by your kindness. Serving as commander of E Company, the Long Range Reconnaissance Patrol Company for the 9th Infantry Division in the Mekong Delta, was one of the greatest privileges and most formative experiences of my life. I am tremendously proud of what we accomplished. When we began, the Long Range Reconnaissance Patrol was a platoon-sized force. We grew that capability into a full company. We built the Lerp Company area at Camp Bearcat from scratch, not only for ourselves, but for the Lerps who followed us. We created the Long Range Reconnaissance curriculum for the 9th Infantry Division Recondo School, a curriculum that trained not just the Lerps of the 9th Infantry Division, but also Lerps from other divisions who came to train at our Recondo School. And we conducted many, many successful reconnaissance and combat missions, providing critical reconnaissance and intelligence for the division leadership. As proud as I am of what we accomplish, I am even more proud of the men I serve. I was blessed to serve with some of the greatest soldiers ever to have served their country. None of these accomplishments, of which I am so proud, would have ever been possible without the dedication to the mission and the commitment to each other of the LURPS of E Company. Of LURPS like those who have traveled to Fort Benning to attend this ceremony, and of men like Roy Nelson, Island Jones, and many others, who are no longer with us today, but will always be a part of those of us who served together. The time in which I was blessed to serve as the commander of E Company is among the most pivotal chapters of my life. The hardships and trials, the successes and accomplishments, but most of all, the camaraderie of the LURPS of E Company shaped all my subsequent undertakings. I would be remiss if I failed to thank my wife of almost 58 years, Connie. Sweetheart, you have always been my rock, my teacher, and my guiding star. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Without you, I would not have been the commander E Company remembers, or the man I have become. Well, the good parts of the man I have become. I love you. I would like to conclude the way I began, by thanking the 75th Ranger Regiment and the Airborne Ranger Training Brigade, the Ranger Hall of Fame, the honor of selecting me for the Ranger Hall of Fame. And by thanking the LURPS of E Company for choosing me to be among those who represent us in this great honor. Rangers lead the way. Family's thanks and my personal thanks to the Ranger Hall of Fame, the Airborne Ranger Training Brigade, and the 75th Ranger.
Our next inductee is Lieutenant Colonel Mark Ponzillo, Jr. Lieutenant Colonel retired Ponzillo, Jr. is inducted into the Ranger Hall of Fame for extraordinary achievement and exemplary service as commander of the 25th Infantry Division's Long Range Reconnaissance Patrol Company. In April 1966, the commanding general 25th Infantry Division selected then Captain Ponzillo to create and command the division's company-sized reconnaissance unit. Captain Ponzillo's task was to form and train a unit that had no personnel, no equipment, and no living quarters. This provisional unit was to be formed from volunteers across the division, and equipment and supplies were begged and borrowed from 3rd Squadron, 4th Cavalry. Captain Ponzillo set about developing a standard operating procedure and combat tactics for his new unit. Many of the tactics he formulated in 1966 are still being used by U.S. Special Operations units today. Captain Ponzillo commanded the LURP Company until November 1966. He was then reassigned to the 5th Special Forces Group Alpha, Vietnam. December of 1967, the 25th ID LURPs were designated Company F 50th Infantry Long Range Patrol, and again later in February 1969, the unit was designated Company F 75th Infantry Rangers. Lieutenant Colonel Ponzillo continued his military service until retiring in August of 1978. He served 2 tours in Vietnam. In addition to his tour with the 75th Infantry Division, he served with 5th Special Forces Group, Alpha, and MACV Studies and Observation Group in 1968 through 69. The unit that he was tasked to create and all the other divisional long-range reconnaissance patrol companies' performance in Vietnam laid the foundation for today's Ranger and Special Operations units. Keeping with the Ranger creed and motto, Lieutenant Colonel Ponzillo knew what was expected of him as an elite soldier, never failed his comrades, and completed his mission. Lieutenant Colonel Mark Ponzillo leads the way. Ladies and gentlemen, to honor Lieutenant Colonel Ponzillo, his medallion is to be presented to his wife, Jo Ponzillo.
Well, I'm standing here with a heart overflowing with gratitude for the honor you have bestowed on my husband, and I thank you. 2 years ago, we were here for the Ranger reunion. I wish my husband could be here, but he passed away. We got home on a Saturday night. Sunday morning, he had a cerebral hemorrhage and died close to midnight. I thought, oh, I didn't know what to do. Well, the next day, Marshal Huckabee shows up. He was one of Mark's original NERPs. He had paperwork filled out. He had his DD 214. He had everything done for me. And I was in shock. I wouldn't have known what to do. Well, Marshal takes off. Then I had a celebration of life. It was more than what I ever would have expected. He had fireworks at the end. A friend of his said, Mark wanted to go out with a bang, so he did. And then I talked to the chaplain, Bo Waldo. The 75th Ranger Regiment was going to do his burial honors. I thought, how much better could it get? I mean, it was more than I could have asked for this man that I loved and respected all these years. Well, we get up there. Bo's had beautiful words, and the Rangers just looked great. They did a wonderful job. Well, then I thought, what more? His guys had a Huey helicopter come over. I just put my hand on my mouth, waved to the pilots, and thought, it can't get better than this. And now this. This on top of everything else, you have made one woman a very happy person. I couldn't have asked more for my husband, and I couldn't have asked more for my nurse. So I do know one thing, Rangers do lead the way. Not only do they lead the way in the military, but they lead the way with taking care of their families. I'm an example of that. Mark Swerps took care of me. The Rangers did everything that I could have ever dreamed of having for my husband. So from the bottom of my heart, I thank you. To my LERPs and to the Rangers. You do lead the way. Thank you.
Our next inductee is Colonel William E. Powell. Colonel Powell is inducted into the Ranger Hall of Fame for exceptionally meritorious service to the Rangers, the United States Army, and the nation. During one of his tours in the Vietnam War, he served as the Assistant Battalion Advisor to the 35th Vietnamese Ranger Battalion, where he earned a Bronze Star Medal for valor. On 18 October 1974, just prior to the official activation of the 2nd Battalion Ranger, 75th Infantry, now known simply as the 2nd Ranger Battalion, Colonel Powell served as the battalion executive officer for the first 2 years of the battalion. During those 2 years, then Major Powell helped establish and set the policies and standard operating procedures for the staff, which were unique to an airborne Ranger battalion. His leadership and staff supervision helped the battalion as it successfully completed tactical, airborne, amphibious, Arctic, jungle, desert, and other environmental skills training, and successfully completed the validation exercises which placed the unit in worldwide deployable status. Tapping his previous experiences as a Ranger Battalion executive officer and advising the Vietnamese 35th Ranger Battalion, he was selected to serve the next year as the Regional Infantry Advisor to an Iranian Army Infantry Division in Kermanshah, Iran. Upon completion of his advisory duty, then Lieutenant Colonel Powell was assigned as the battalion commander for the 3rd Battalion, 39th Infantry, and 9th Infantry Division in Fort Lewis, Washington. He served in that capacity for the next 18 months before being selected as the commander of the 2nd Battalion Ranger, 75th Infantry. It was during this assignment that the battalion began conducting special operations training in addition to its normal environmental training. It was one of these special operations training rehearsals on 21 September 1981 that he and 5 other Rangers, as well as the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment pilot, were killed when the C-130 aircraft he was flying in crashed and caught fire 1,600 meters short of the runway at Indian Springs, Nevada. For exceptionally meritorious service, Ranger Powell's contributions to the nation are phenomenal and enduring. His exceptional leadership and service are in keeping with the highest traditions of the Ranger Creed and reflect great credit upon himself, the United States Army Rangers, and the United States Army. Ladies and gentlemen, to honor Colonel Powell, his medallion is to be presented to his daughter, Megan Powell Bennett.
I wanted to first thank Jeff Mellinger for nominating my dad to the Ranger Hall of Fame. And then I wanted to thank just the Rangers, past and present, and their wives and their families, because it really is, it takes a team. I came up with 6 different ways to tell you about my dad, and then I finally realized that the best way to tell you about him was maybe just to share a letter that one of his men had sent me. This is one of probably hundreds of letters that I've received. This is from a Jim Marshall. I am a retired Army officer now, but I served under your father in the 2nd 75th Ranger Battalion. I was just a kid when I got there. Your father was my first battalion commander. Some of the things that have stuck with me from your father. Your father was a man of unflinching character, a man who led from the front by personal example, and whose very presence demanded respect. He was larger than life to many of us Rangers that he loved and led. I have never met or been around a man like your father, and he has made an indelible impression on me that I've tried to emulate my entire life. As I marched through this life, I have always listed your father as a man I admired most and made the largest impact. Your father did not tolerate his Rangers acting foolish or unprofessional. The standards to remain in his unit were very high. The standard of dress, how we conducted ourselves, and in the general public, financial management, and professional growth were all required. For a battalion of young warriors, some of these standards were foreign and required many of us to adhere to things that had never been part of our lives. Not only did your father improve us as professional soldiers, but he improved us as good citizens. Your father's character had a ripple effect. I have adhered to all of your father's required of us, and those traits have become my standard, as I also energetically enforced myself and all those who I served with and for, to include that of my only child, who is now serving in the Army Special Forces. My son never met your father, but knows of your father through my telling of him about my first commander and what he was, and who he was as a man, a leader, and a ranger. My son, too, wants to emulate all those traits and will someday lead young Rangers. My son will do it with the same old school values your father had, because that's the way it should be. It's the Ranger way. So, Megan, I want you to know that your father continues to influence generations of Rangers. Many people strive to leave a legacy out of personal conceit, but your father left a legacy out of love for his Rangers and wanting them to become all that they can be. So as we used to tell your father as he stood before his battalion of warriors. Rangers lead the way. And his response to us was all the way. Thank you.
Our next inductee is Lieutenant General Robert W. Wagner. Lieutenant General retired Wagner served in Ranger and Infantry units while serving in 2 different campaign theaters, with 13 months of operational missions and 38 years of service as a Ranger leader and Infantry officer. Lieutenant General Wagner is inducted into the Ranger Hall of Fame for his service and embodiment of the Ranger Creed throughout his military career. Among his assignments in the Ranger Regiment, he served as a battalion logistics officer, rifle company commander, regimental S3, battalion commander. His extensive joint, airborne, and special operations experience is unparalleled through a 38-year career, and were instrumental to the development of what the special operations community is today. He served with legendary distinction as a platoon leader, Charlie Company, 1st Battalion, 506 Infantry, 1st Airborne Division Air Mobile in Vietnam, Operations Officer Advisory Team 33, United States Military Assistance Command, Vietnam, and Commander of the 1st Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment, Operation Just Cause, Panama. His last assignment was as Commanding General of the United States Army Special Operations Command, Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Lieutenant General Wagner served 2 tours in the Pentagon at the Joint Staff, 22 years on airborne status, 10 years of overseas duty, 13 years as a general officer. For exceptionally meritorious service, Ranger Wagner's contributions to the nation are phenomenal and enduring. His exceptional leadership and service are in keeping with the highest traditions of the Ranger Creed and reflect great credit upon himself, the United States Army Rangers, and the United States Army. Ladies and gentlemen, Lieutenant General Wagner.
I imagine at this point some of you are wondering whether you'd be best off to order pizza in for supper, get up and go to the bathroom, or change your flight reservations. I think our most valued possessions in life are our family, our friends, our memories, and our values. And the great thing about this room tonight is that's all we have. Families and friends and memories and values. The heart of what we are about. The heart of the military, people. The heart of the Rangers, people. I want to thank the Training Brigade and the Ranger Brigade and Sergeant First Class Watkins for the great work you did in supporting and putting this event together. It's a lot of work and you've done a great job. I want to thank those who nominated me and those who approved the nomination. I'd like to thank my family for being here. My wife, PJ, we were married 2 months after I got back from Vietnam in 1972. Our daughter Annie, her husband, and 2 of our grandchildren, and our son Van. So they've come from Ohio and Florida to be here tonight. My first exposure to the military was as a 9th grader on a Boy Scout trip to Fort Benning, Georgia, for a week with the Explorer Exposition. And the Airborne Training Brigade gave me my first certificate for my 250-foot ride in the tower, the buddy seat. Somehow that seemed to lead into my being in the Airborne for a good number of years. So I thank you for the start that you gave me. And my first exposure to Rangers actually came from while I was a cadet at West Point in 66 and 67. Our regimental tactical officer was a fellow named Ralph Puckett. But his name was always said in 2 parts. Colonel Puckett, he's a Ranger. And that meant a lot to everybody who knew him and heard what was said. He represented character, courage, commitment, honor, integrity. He was a wonderful example for us. And so I think that those two things, two separate little incidents, kind of led to what became the rest of my life, which is being an airborne infantry ranger. My goal as a cadet was very simple: to be an airborne infantry platoon leader in Vietnam in the 101st. Fortunately, my career didn't end there. Ranger School in 1970 and 71 was perhaps the most important training I ever received in my life. Why? It taught us exactly how to run a patrol, how to do ambushes, a night defensive position, fire support, resupply, all the things you had to do to live as an infantry platoon leader in Vietnam in the jungle, deployed day and night. We didn't have barracks, we didn't have beds, we had a rucksack. And when I went up to supply to get my equipment, they said, "What do you want?" I said, "Well, the standard issue." And they said, "Well, what do you want?" Okay, I got the game. So I thought back to Ranger School, and I repacked my rucksack from Ranger School. Of course, everything they gave me was dry rotted, but that didn't matter, I guess. But more so, I think I never talked to another officer or NCO in my battalion before I went to the field as a platoon leader. Period. None. I got to the battalion, after I came back from supply, they said, "Go up to Cold Steel Pad, get on the helicopter." I did. They took me out to the field. The platoon leader had been relieved the day before for lying about what he was supposed to do and said he didn't do it. And all of a sudden the helicopter's gone and Wagner's laying on the ground, wondering where's the platoon. Again, Ranger School. Ranger School has put all of us in a different place in life. Not only did it teach us skills, but it taught us that no matter how cold, how wet, how hungry, or how tired you are, you still have more to give. And you will drive on, and you will complete the mission. That to me is what being a ranger is all about. You know, the people that I got to serve with in 2nd Ranger Battalion, when I got to there in 76 to 79, they were incredible people. Colonel Downey, Bill Powell, Dick Melvesti, Sergeant Porterson, Mattoon, Glenn Fullenkamp, Bob Howard, Bill Owl, Lawson Magruder, Buck Kernan, John Absey. Can you imagine all of those people being in one place? I mean, but General Donnie was a taskmaster, there's no doubt about that. It was important to him that we always understood the mission and the intent, and you don't stop until you do it. If you're going to rucksack march and you're supposed to have a full packing list, there's going to be a stop somewhere along the way and you'll be inspected. And if you were to have 3 pairs of socks and you had 2.5 or 2 or 4, you were wrong. And therefore you would repeat it at the end of the day with your entire chain of command. Why? Because you learn to follow orders the way they're given. There's no substitute for that. I remember one operation that we went on from 2nd Ranger Battalion. It was before the regiment was formed. So it was an evaluation exercise by ForceCom. And this was important to us. This was an evaluation for whether or not we could be a 2nd Ranger Battalion here. So we were parachuting from Fort Lewis into Fort Carson in the winter, about a foot of snow on the ground, and an actual major blizzard underway. It's an AWACS jump, which, for those of you who may not know, meant there was no combat control team on the ground. The aircraft were all controlled, one to the next, following the lead aircraft. As it turned out, only a third of the airplanes dropped. They did not land in the right place. The evaluators were kind of making a big deal of this, thinking for sure they failed. What do you think happened? At exactly the right time and the right place, the target was hit and the mission was accomplished. And this is the next part of the difference between a ranger and someone else. The evaluators were convinced it couldn't happen. There was absolutely no doubt in the mind of the rangers that it would happen, and it did. And that's the world we're a part of. We're a part of a world where there are no excuses. You do what's required, you make it happen, no excuses. It was a special day in 1984 when we stood in front of this building and stood up the regiment. I was General Downing's operations officer. We had no idea that it would grow to what it's become today. And that part of it, you've heard the general people talk about the charter. Our feeling was to stay very light. You know, best trained, best equipped, do better things with your hands and equipment better than anybody could imagine. But the fact is you have outgrown anything we could have ever imagined.
not only did we outgrow it in numbers, but in capabilities and contributions and global involvement, far greater. And it's absolutely wonderful to see what you have become. Well, then I had the chance, the thrill of being part of the 1st Ranger Battalion from 1988 to 1991, which included Operation Just Cause. Once again, incredible people that I got to serve with, such as Bill Seabees, Don Lemke, Mike Hall, Dan Allen, Kurt Fuller, Jeff Bannister, K.K. Chin, Ken Keene, Mark Pentecost, Paula Cameron, and even Sheila. So many, again, good people, just absolutely wonderful people. So when we had Just Cause, this was the first major airborne operations in many years in the history of our Army. So we flew from Savannah in 17 aircraft to Panama. 730 jumpers, 27 vehicles in 4 minutes at 500 feet. Only one person left on board the aircraft, one pass. And rapidly secured all the Trios and Tucumán airfields, a target 4 miles long, for follow-on airline forces. The Rangers did exactly what they were supposed to do against a very uncertain situation. On the way down, we were told that there were 450 on the ground and they issued weapons and ammunition and knew we were coming. Didn't matter one bit to the pilots, they flew the route. Didn't matter to the Rangers, they did what they were trained to do, exactly. I will say, sadly, of course, we lost one Ranger, Ranger James Marco. And Gold Star Mother Sandy Rouse is here, and she's been an inspiration to many people who have suffered loss ever since. So, Sandy, thank you for being here today. I want to just talk a little bit. I was in CTAF. I commanded CTAF, the Southern European Task Force, in Italy from 2000 to 2002. Why is that important here? Because exactly what the Abrams Charter said it should do, it was. It was filled with Rangers. Rangers who were helping make the important decisions. People like Pat Carpenter, Mike Kershaw, Eric Carilla, Rich Clark, and many more. Many units throughout the Army have been so enriched by the people who have grown up in this regiment that the Abrams Charter has truly met what it was supposed to do. This is all while they were conducting operations in Kosovo, in Bosnia, and Hungary, and the Ukraine, things that most people don't really get to hear about. What are the rewards from all of this? Watching wonderful young officers and NCOs rise in rank. 2 of them in particular I would point out were my cadets when I was at West Point as their tactical officer. Ken Togo was one. He became my chief of staff when I was commanding USASOC, and later he was promoted to 3-star, and he commanded USASOC. That's a reward. Rich Clark being another, he was one of my cadets. My wife and I and son were proud to be at his promotion to 4-star as he assumed commanded USASOC. It's been wonderful being a part of this community. This could only be better if 2 other people were here. One would be Buck Kernan and Gerald Kernan, and Bill these 3 people. Wonderful people who have now passed. But I do feel that the founding fathers, people like General Lindsay and Luck and Sutter, Shelton, are all up there watching. They're watching what you have been doing. They could only be but proud of what you're doing. And frankly, I'm very honored. I'm humbled, and I thank you for allowing me to be here tonight. Thank you very much.
Our honorary inductees is Miss Joni Malello Klassen. Miss Joni Malello Klassen has been Meryl Marauders liaison officer for 15 years, serving as a bridge between the World War II unit and Ranger community. 2020, the Congressional Gold Medal Act signed into law October 17, 2020 by President Donald Trump can be traced to Joni's relentless 10-year mission to obtain the award. Her media coordination resulted in global coverage and recognition for Marauders and others who brought their journey to fruition. She arranged in 2020 for a huge Meryl Marauder memorabilia collection to be donated to Hampton-Sydney College's Wilson Center for Leadership, named after Marauder and retired Lieutenant General Sam Wilson. In 2020, she began behind-the-scenes support of the World War II Foundation's production of a Meryl Marauders documentary to be narrated by veteran TV newsman Tom Brokaw. In 2014, Joni spearheaded a massive grassroots campaign giving Meryl's Marauders their first national recognition when the nation's governor signed proclamations declaring August 10, 2014, the 70th anniversary of the 5307th Composite Unit Provisional disbanding as National World War II Meryl's Marauder Day. She has been a speaker for Fort Benning Equal Employment Office's monthly observances honoring women and Native Americans. In 2011 and 2015, she held Rosie Socials at the Benning Club, attended by hundreds to honor the greatest generation. In 2013, she arranged for all Ranger units in Fort Benning's Donovan Research Library to receive complimentary copies of British author Gavin Mortimer's Meryl's Marauders book. And in 2016, she began mailing informational care packages to all surviving Marauders. In 2018, she created a Meryl's Marauder Capsule History DVD for the World War II Museum. In 2019, she planned the Marauders' first trip to Congress. She planned Marauder Gilbert Howland's 2019 presentation at California's Pittsburgh Historical Museum, commemorating his unit's 75th anniversary in Camp Stoneman. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Malelo Klassen.
This is the part I don't like. There are really almost 3,000 reasons why I'm here, and that is Meryl's Marauders. And the most important one is by me. That's my dad, Vincent Malelo. He was Georgia's last Meryl's Marauder. He's also a Korean War veteran. Daddy and Gilbert Howland down there were in the same battalion, 2nd Battalion. The commander was Colonel McGee. Right now, there are only 6 Meryl's Marauders alive. We just lost one in Florida. They range in age from 96 to 100. And I would like everyone else, to thank the people who have made it possible for me to be here today, particularly Steve Johnson, 75th Ranger Regiment Association President, who submitted me for Ranger Hall of Fame. This building that we're sitting in today, Building 4, now known as McGinnis Wickham Hall, actually helped forge my life's journey. A summer job I had here as a teenager in the old Post Information Office, when this building was about 3 years old, pushed me toward a career in journalism and design. That was during the Vietnam War era, when John Gause was director of the PIO, and Sergeant Major Holtzclaw and Sergeant Mike Condos were on staff. My greatest inspiration and everything good that I've accomplished in my life comes from the values of my parents, my dad, and my World War II Rosie the Riveter mother, Frankie Malelo. When Major General Ken Lohr gave me the opportunity to edit the National Ranger Monuments newsletter, I began writing stories about Rangers and their families from World War II to current conflicts. I've since had the opportunity to work with 5 75th Ranger Regiment Association presidents: John Chester, Joe Little, Bill Anton, Rick Barella, who was inducted into Ranger Hall of Fame this morning, and Steve Johnson, plus Travis West, who's president of the U.S. Army Ranger Association. Rangers like Daryl Thies, Dave Regenthal, Jerry Klein, Jeff Mellinger, Art Attaway, Jeremy Billings, Chris Goodrow, Bill Spees, Tony Main, Paul Longrear, Carlton Savory, Rob Chapa, Scott Miller, Peter Jones, Joe Stringham, and many, many others have gone the extra mile to support Meryl's Marauders. However, there's one very special group who has helped me personally more than any other. It includes the behind-the-scenes women whose dedication makes Ranger units run smoothly and whose respect for history keeps the Marauder legacy alive. Joyce Thomas, 3rd Ranger Battalion, Linda Davis, 75th Ranger Regiment, Tracy Bailey, 75th Ranger Regiment, the late Tabitha Kidd, Airborne Ranger Training Brigade, and Sheila Dudley, 1st Ranger Battalion, have all been my teachers. There's also former Donovan Research Library Director Erica Lowe's Hudson, and the library's current Genoa Stafford and Sherry Floyd. There's former Bayonet Saber editor Lori Egan and Bridget Sider. There's Meryl Mattoon, wife of Ranger Boom Boom Steve Mattoon. My son Michael encouraged me and kept me supplied with up-to-date camera and computer equipment. If Bob Howland, who's sitting right down there next to his 98-year-old triple CIB dad, had not become my teammate in late 2017, the 10-year Meryl's Marauder Congressional Gold Medal campaign would not be where it is today. So any successes that I've achieved would not have been possible without the people whose names I've just mentioned, plus many, many other individuals and organizations. So once again, thank you for everything. The medal I'm receiving is also their medal. Thank you. And Rangers lead the way.
At this time, Command Sergeant Major Donaldson and Command Sergeant Major Bonapane will now unveil the plaques inducting this year's exemplary Rangers into the Ranger Hall of Fame. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand and pause for a moment at your seats during the playing of caps. A moment of silence in memory of fallen Rangers. Thank you. And please remain standing for the recitation of the Ranger Creed, followed by the singing of the Army Song and departure of the official party.
The Ranger Creed! First down to the Ranger Creed, repeat after me. Recognizing that I volunteered as a Ranger.
Recognize I volunteered as a Ranger.
Fully knowing the hazards of my chosen profession.
Fully knowing the hazards of
I will always endeavor to hold esteem. Honor. Highest degree of the Ranger.
Second stanza of the Ranger Creed, repeat after me. Acknowledge the fact that the Ranger is a war elite soldier. Who arrives at the gun against the mother by land. Sea or air. I accept the fact that as a Ranger. My country expects me to move further. Faster. Fight harder than any other soldier. Third stanza of the Ranger Creed, repeat after me. Never shall I fail my comrade. Always keep myself ready alert. Strong. More than straight. I'll show the world my share of tasks. Whatever may be. 100%. And then some. Fourth stanza of the Ranger Creed, repeat after me. Gallantly will I show the world. I'm especially selected and well-trained soldier. My courtesy to superior officers. Needless address. And care of equipment. Shall set the example for others to follow. The fifth stanza of the Ranger Creed, repeat after me. Energetic will I show the world. Energetic will I be Indians in my country.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's ceremony. On behalf of the 75th Ranger Regiment, the Airborne and Ranger Training Brigade, thank you for your attendance, and Rangers lead the way.